Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Spilling the Tea on GovCon. I'm Teresa Moon, Director of Market Strategy for Parabolis. We are the preeminent partnership for government contractors, providing holistic support that includes a line of credit to fund your growth. The purpose of this podcast is to assist small businesses with success in the federal marketplace by introducing them to industry experts and resources that they may not otherwise know about. Today, my guest is my friend, Caitlin Ruiz, founder of Human Design Consulting, a Virginia-based recruiting firm that specializes in GovCon talent acquisition solutions. Caitlin is also co-host of GovCon After Hours podcast and a founding member and president of a GovCon chapter of Nexco National. Caitlin is very active in the GovCon community and no doubt will be sharing some amazing information today, especially given the new waters we navigate through in our industry. Welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you back, and we've got a lot to cover today. It's a new year, and there's a new view on things, and you've got some incredible insight that we want to dive into. But before we do that, if you would please take a second for those who didn't see our past episode together and introduce yourself, give your background in the industry and your work within the GovCon community, and some of the highlights of what your company provides to the industry.
Sure. So I loved your introduction. I don't know that I can do much better, but I'll try a little bit. Caitlin Ruiz here. I'm the founder of Human Design Consulting, and we do specialize in fractional GovCon recruiting solutions. And it is GovCon specific, so we only play in that space. And that is because I myself grew up in government contract recruiting, specifically probably, oh my gosh, almost 12 or 13 years in-house in corporate roles as a director of TA for some big GovCons, specifically out of Arlington in the end. But that's how I fell in love with it. And I really do. This industry is it for me. I love this place. So I fell in love with, again, just GovCon as an industry and started the firm almost 5 years ago now. So that it's been a wonderful, incredible journey, but we are a set of GovCon enthusiasts, all recruiting specific background. It's myself and a number of other fractional recruiters. So the team is much more than just me, but we're here to help be supplemental support to GovCons who may have an in-house team and also those who don't at all, who aren't in a space that perhaps their growth hasn't necessitated them to in-house that function yet. So we're that fractional on-demand support function for them. Just like any other back office, maybe like an HR consultant or financing or accounting or what have you. So we run the gamut in terms of uncleared work all the way up through full scope poly and intel work. So we're here if you need help. Hopefully we're the solution that you can trust. And one of our biggest differentiators, I like to think, is that we're truth tellers. So I will tell you the truth, even if it's not something either one of us wants to hear.
I love that. And that's one of my favorite things about you and why we're such good friends. And congratulations on 5 years in the business. It's not easy being an entrepreneur, let alone in the government contracting space. And that is an amazing feat. So congratulations and kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's show people what you really know and what you're the expert in. A lot of the things that we are going to discuss today are actionable insights for government contractors that are navigating an evolving hiring landscape. We're going to specifically focus on how you can remain competitive, compliant, and progressive, while also capitalizing on new opportunities that are present in an ever-changing market. So let's start first with what we've been seeing most recently with regard to the federal hiring freeze. So to kick it off, how can contractors best position themselves to attract talent these days?
Yes. So I think we should also preface that it is February 7th. So things change daily here now in the GovCon landscape. So tonight a new EO might come out, maybe tomorrow, who knows? We'll see. But for the present moment, this is what we're working with. So the federal hiring freeze, frankly, that can usually go two ways. And we have clients right now that are obviously experiencing this in those two ways. One of which is, it's like, man, that could really be detrimental to our market and the types of candidates that we can go after. And then the opposite, which is every time you think maybe this is a shitty position to be in, perhaps there's an element of opportunity here for us. So what is that? And we've had a lot of clients that are now falling into that category. And a perfect example of that is we're working a role right now. It is cybersecurity based. So that is probably like a caveat to be had, because I know not all roles right now are growing in the current administration, but in this specific niche industry it is. So it's a cybersecurity role. And we're in the process of hiring, and the client, so the feds on the other side, came to our client and said, hey, we have this federal hiring freeze, but I need 3 of these other people. I was going to hire them myself, but now I cannot. And now we're doing it. So that was it was almost not gifted work, but unanticipated opportunity for our client to capitalize on that. And from a market perspective, now, especially now, again, February 7th, flooded with feds, flooded with current federal employees who have either taken that the buyout or believe that they may be in danger of having their employment ended some other way, and so are voluntarily in the market. But either way, there is a flood, a massive influx of highly cleared, very capable, incredible humans on both sides of the fence. So the market is really going to change. It's more of like a tidal wave of new talent. So you really have to try to take advantage of that, because I don't know that this kind of opportunity will come around again, and hopefully for a while.
I mean, and I think that that's a great point to be made, considering the fact that, being in a growing business myself, Parabolis, we've expanded exponentially in the last year and a half, and the talent pool wasn't always there for us when the need was internally. So it's a great point to be made that if you have had the struggle of growing pains and not finding those really that pool of people that really fit the need that you have, that was a great time to dip your foot in that pool, because there are people waiting to be of service for what you do. And there are people like Caitlin and her team that can match you up. So now's the time to start figuring that out, which is a great ad. So I appreciate that. So in terms of policy shifts, how is that going to look in terms of turnover and difficulty in filling the roles? We got a lot of people, right? We got a lot of people that are readily available. How does that affect filling the roles that are available?
So I think in terms of filling the roles, I mean, we've got a ton of people that are available. It's an interesting, prior to the last 2 weeks or however long the timeline has been now, the general feel in the hiring process is it's always dicey to hire a Fed. It's even more dicey to hire a Fed and then feed them back to the feds. Like it's a weird cycle to be in. So as a client as a government contractor doing business with government, you really have to know your client. You have to know whether or not that's something you can even do, if your contracts allow for it, what the politics are around all that, like the internal politics of it, and how it looks and how it feels. Some agencies are much more open to that. Some aren't. So it's very specific, contextually specific, and case by case basis as to whether or not that would be something you could do, would be in your best interest. But in the highly cleared spaces, and more than half of our current clients are in the intelligence space, so they all need people with full scope polys typically. That market, the fact that we're having a lot of movement there, CIA, NGA, CISA, a lot of other places where you wouldn't expect it normally, where the feds are going to come into the marketplace, a marketplace that was extremely hard to find talent. And then sometimes you would then have to clear them yourself as a small government contractor, which is quite a process. And often you don't have the time to do that. So this changes everything for them. So I think it really, honestly, it all depends. And I think come Monday, we might be saying something different. So, but for today, this is where we are.
Yeah, that's the benefit of being a small business, though, is that they're agile, right? They can make those small pivots that make the biggest difference because of their size and their ability to pivot. So I think that's an important note too. Don't be afraid. You've got to lean into the change. It is the way of the world, and if you're not changing, you're not growing, in both respects, right? And so I think that's great insight there. Are there any innovative approaches that contractors can take to bridge the gap between operational needs and employee satisfaction? We see a lot these days in the hiring landscape that employees are coming to the table with a lot more of the cards on their side, as opposed to it always being on the employer side. So how do you navigate situations like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was actually just listening to another podcast the other day.
How dare you?
I know.
just kidding.
It was a recruitment specific one.
Okay.
It was recruiting people. And they were talking about a lot of this stuff. And to that point, because there's also the return to office mandate and policy going on, and that separate from feds kind of leaving in droves and or agencies being changed. The return to work mandate thing frankly was doing great for government contractors in the recruiting space because almost always we were in a hybrid work model where it wasn't the 5 days a week in office. That is still the case present day, at least in all of our clients' cases. None of that has changed. So that was pushing a level of candidates towards the not federal space anyway. And so that policy is one of them. And to the work or the employee satisfaction piece of things, I think people are interested in that, right? They're still hoping to find that work-life balance. There are certain things that are very important to employees. One of which is meaning, right? Having some sort of purpose and mission at work. There's a lot of different driving factors that matter to a workforce. And in terms of a small government contractor trying to bridge that gap and or even just attract talent in general, how can we make a difference? I've seen a lot of really creative things done over the years in benefits. I've seen things as interesting and you're like, oh my God, that's brilliant. Like pet insurance. If your typical target candidate profile is the younger generation and they happen to all be into pet insurance, like it's such an inexpensive type of benefit thing to offer, and it makes all the world of difference. So just really interesting, creative, small shifts and changes or things that you can offer to make a difference. But honestly, I think with all these EOs and the massive shift in how the federal government is working, will be doing work, how many of them there are, I think there's going to be a big lean on government contractors in general to supply. I mean, this work still needs to be done. It just needs to be done differently. So the talent is still going to need to be supplied in a certain way. And I think we all of your clients included, have an opportunity here to really increase their workforce work share, increase even their JVs, their priming, like any of it, try to switch it up and get in there. And I think some of the market is going to help us do that. Like, again, taking some of the feds that have come in, also changing. There has been a lot of talk around policy around changing like to merit-based only hiring, or doing away with other initiatives that may have changed the way that hiring was done in a federal level. And so may also trickle down to how the government contractors are hiring. So that could also be a floodgate opening. So while at the surface level, we may all panic that things are different or that things are perhaps not going the way that I personally may want them to, or you personally may want them to, or whomever, again, we have to start looking at everything as where's the opportunity here? Because I think there really is. We just have to get creative about it, talk to each other about it, figure it out, have the conversations. It's only been a few weeks. There is no real answer, I don't think yet. We're all figuring it out. So lean in, like you were saying a couple minutes ago, like lean into this opportunity wave that is coming, that is here. Try to swim. Let's not drown.
That's right. To quote Dory, just keep swimming, right? Those of us with little kids understand that better than others. But I think, given the fact that a lot of people don't always lean into your industry fast enough, I think everyone tries to save a buck by doing it themselves. We see it in a lot of industries, right? And especially in servicing the small business market, it's whatever we can do to save a dollar that ends up biting you in the long run. And with regard to having an influx of people joining that pool in the hiring field, it's important to have experts that know how to weed out what is or isn't a good fit. It isn't just, I know what I need at my job or at my place of work better than you do, so I'm the best person to do that. And the CEO at Parabolis has always been brilliant in the sense of saying, I might not be qualified to hire for that job, whether I'm the leader of the company or not, because the proficiencies that are necessary for that position are not my proficiencies. Hence the reason I'm hiring someone else. So why not find someone who their proficiency is to weed out what is best for you, have the cream rise to the top in terms of being able to, cherry pick what is the best fit for you, instead of just trying to save a couple bucks and not bring someone in who will be 100% focused on just that and not the managing the day-to-day of everything that else that filters into being a business owner. And there's so many hats to wear, know? So I think it's important that people look at your profession in a different way, especially in the way that you provide it in a fractional effort, that it isn't someone sitting in your office every single day managing the hiring process for you. It's coming in as you need, but really being that expert and leaning into finding the people in the different roles that you're looking to fulfill. And then something else to mention as well is, a lot of what sets the larger companies apart from the smaller companies is the hiring process due to the actual understanding of how the federal marketplace works. We tend to hire quickly sometimes on people who might have sales experience or business development experience, or even IT experience in whatever realm that a big, huge umbrella you might fall under, but don't have an understanding about how the procurement process works and how their role filters into that business being effective as a contractor. And that is something that separates you as well. I mean, while you are an expert within finding roles within an entire organization and not just specific ones, you also understand that need because you're an expert in government contracting. You have a clear understanding of how those roles are different in the commercial market as compared to the federal market.
Absolutely. I'm just going to start taking you with me everywhere I go. This is what
I always say, give me enough info to make me dangerous. And if I like you, I'll be your marketing agent, no matter who you are, for free. She didn't pay me to say that, ladies and gentlemen.
But you're absolutely, spot on. Another example of a conversation we were having with a client, and hopefully some of the expertise that we bring to every client is this kind of conversation, where it was another cybersecurity role. The client says one thing, but is continuing to turn down all of our people for another thing, right? So it's like, all right, he's saying he wants X, the job description and the contract is written as Y. Mm-hmm. Our LCAP minimums are this, our actual bill rates are that. Like, how can we make this work? What is he actually looking for? And does that exist in the market? And if it does, man, can we make it for the same price that the contract is requiring us to make it for? And in all honesty, in this specific situation, the answer is no. He is looking for something that is far more senior, but he keeps telling us that is more junior, but the qualifications only exist in senior people with these certs, this level of experience, all of these things that only comes in a senior human. And he keeps kicking it back saying they're literally too senior or too qualified to a degree, but they don't have XYZ if they're not. So it's like, we just keep going back and forth. And this client honestly is probably 40K under market for what the actual Fed government is looking for on this role. Mm-hmm. And so now we're in this position. I mean, frankly, the market has changed in the last 2 weeks alone of candidates. I have a ton more that are applying to all of our outreaches. All of our recruiters are getting a lot more engagement on LinkedIn and other platforms. Obviously, clearance jobs always works well for us. But all of the influx in the market, there really has been an uptick in engagement. So I think, again, it takes a second for that trickle down effect to be felt by some of our clients, the government contractors we work with, as service providers. But I think it's really coming. And yes, especially if you're in the cleared space, the highly cleared space, or a very competitive space where you're always up against all the big boy primes. And now is the time to invest in talent acquisition and trying to get a recruiter in there to help you recruit and really swoop up some of these people that are out there.
I mean, the pool is vast. I mean, it's growing into an ocean of it, and we're going to have a tidal wave of people eventually as more and more are looking to outside opportunities. I mean, obviously, working for the federal government is, provides a certain level of prestige that attracts a lot of people to it. But it's definitely more lucrative to be outside of it. We all know that. So anyone who's worked inside and outside can tell you the same. I have not, but I know many who have, and it's no coincidence that some of the higher leadership that has kind of jumped ship in the last year and a half, 2 years, have conveniently relocated themselves to top roles in the industry partners because their expertise provides them a level of prestige that the government could never afford. And so that's something too. A lot of these federal employees can look to a level up. Many of them don't make that connection until after they might get placed in a wrong fit. But there definitely is a lot of ways where future employees can leverage the experience that they've had at the level that they've had it and really see an influx of, immediate hit to their bank account if they pick well. I mean, you can't convince someone who doesn't understand though that what you're telling them is true. So, your story about, your client isn't something that those of us who are service providers in this industry can't relate to. We see it a lot across the board, regardless of what industry you're using as a service. I think that's everyone thinks they're an expert when they're trying to save a buck, and they're all looking for, that purple unicorn that can fill the role. And good luck to you. If you think you can do better, then go ahead and do it. But I say, do what you do best and outsource the rest. And if you choose to outsource, then rely on that outsource to actually do what you've paid them to do. And, That's my second diatribe. I'm probably not finished though. So as you can see, I did start my government contracting career in the staffing realm, and it was in business development. I was never a recruiter, because I always said that I would have been a crappy recruiter, because if you laugh at my jokes and tell me I'm pretty, then you're hired. Like
they were great.
Yeah, not a good set of qualities to have in a recruiter. Knowing and understanding the requirements of the role is key. Not do they like you better than
Yeah.
the job that they're supposed to be fulfilling. So, but
Yeah.
I do have an understanding of what the industry, the struggles that you have in trying to overcome people trying to save a buck. And not really recognizing the value in that relationship. We certainly do. We utilize recruiters, not just for internal purposes at Parabolis, but for helping our clients. And so that's a way that the network kind of provides support to each of us. It's that, we all have connections that we can make for you. And I think in the landscape being the way that it is today, that's what a lot of the federal employees that are leaning into the industry market now can see. It's that go to those businesses that you were supporting and finding contracts and tell them, hey, I'm available now, right? Yep. So let's think this is a little bit off chart for what you and I discussed in planning for this discussion, but what are some techniques, aside from, of course, lending themselves into a business like yours who can help place them? What are some techniques that the employee market can utilize in order to pinpoint what's a best fit for them in a matchmaking sense?
Yeah, honestly. So every time, and I think, again, I'm the honest one here. Everyone's been fired in their lifetime, right? Like everyone's been fired. And every time I get fired, I'm always like, oh, what do I want to do now? So I hope every employee out there takes an opportunity and honestly thinks about what they want to do. Mm-hmm. Like take this as a weird vacation, unanticipated, like pause gap for you and be like, maybe what they were doing as a Fed isn't what they want to do moving forward. So like start there. But if you do want to stay, if you loved what you were doing, if you loved the group of people you were working with, every Fed had a set of contractors that was around them. None of them were 100% Feds with Feds by themselves enclosed. So reach out to them. There may be, I'm not a contracts person, caveat, like I'm not a doctor. There may be COIs, right? Conflicts of interest. There may be, I don't know how legally their buyout worked from the Feds, but if that's a thing, I would start with your own community that you still have. Like nobody's dead. So reach out, start there if that's what you want to do. I mean, the number one thing that comes to my mind is proposals and business development. And the number of times my firm is asked to find key personnel. And then when we do find the key personnel, asking them to come on as a 1099 to do orals and like presentations and all this other stuff. Could you imagine the level of talent that's out there now that could easily do that for you and would be the best at that is from the agents? Again, I don't know what the COIs are here, but in my mind, that's where it goes. Yeah. Like, and these people have so much to offer, especially to our industry. And I think honestly, it's more the government contractor side to really kind of sniper shoot where they think they can grow in their current contracts, given this administration and landscape, and reach out to their Feds there that they know. I mean, some of them are having trouble getting a hold of them, right? Because their emails and things don't work, but LinkedIn and other ways, hopefully you all have emails and ways to get in contact with each other. But yeah, I think we should all start thinking outside of the box and talking to one another, but it's an interesting opportunity as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, you're one of those people who does think outside of the box in terms of techniques to attract that talent. Are you seeing that there are candidates that are coming to you with a plan like that and saying, hey, this is where I'm coming from, and this is maybe where you can look to place me? Because that's a twofold win for you, right? You've got the candidate, and then now you've got an in towards a business that you might not currently be working with. Are you seeing things like that, or are people just not aware that that might be a good technique?
No, I'm not seeing anything like that. And frankly, I do think just from a civilian observational standpoint, I think most people are just trying to figure out where everything is going to fall or lie or really make a decision or a choice to go full in on a market and figure out what they're doing or what their options even are. So I think maybe that's why it's not happening yet, and or that we're only 2 weeks in and perhaps they are just now kind of embarking on that research or figuring out what they want to do and starting to find those contact information pieces and what have you. But no, I've not had a single person reach out to me. I will say though, because we're not a staffing agency or staff, like we don't work on the candidate side. We only work with the the client side, it still doesn't mean that we don't have clients in almost every agency that could absolutely benefit from knowing that somebody wants. So still, please do reach out and all those things, but we don't place people at places.
Okay.
So we work a little bit differently on that side. But I think from a government contracting perspective, the business side, all of our clients they're very comfortable with the work that they have right now that's already been funded, right? So a lot of the things that we're staffing are billets that they have that are not going to be affected. I think the other half are kind of also still waiting to see where it shakes out, who's leaving where, what's going on before maybe they also kind of sink some more time and energy into that. I think it's a good plan, and it never hurts to start early.
Right. And I appreciate you making that distinction, and my apologies for not knowing better about how your platform works.
Okay.
So I think that is a clear indication that maybe we need to put that out there a little bit, some shameless plugging here. So if you can break down a little bit of how the relationship works with you, how the employer engages with you, and then what your team sets out to accomplish beyond that. And then maybe on the candidate side, even though that isn't the staffing side of it isn't yours, where are common places that you're looking for that talent, so that those candidates that might be out there waiting for the spaces that are available with the businesses that you're supporting, how can they make themselves, present themselves faster to you in your process?
Yep. So we as an organization are like corporate recruiters, like little corporate recruiters that are external on demand to different government contractors. So a business like a Parabolis reaches out to us and says, hey, we don't have 25 roles all the time to fill month after month after month. We have maybe 25 a year. So maybe, and we hire in February and June, and like that's it for salespeople or whatever the cadence is. And again, we only play in GovCon, so usually it's like they are hiring most of the year, and usually it's high level clearances, and there's different reasons that they come to us. But the engagement model is really, hey, we have a few roles to hire. We don't need someone in house all the time, so they come to us, and it's an hourly rate model. So just like you would pay your outsourced accountant or your outsourced HR consultant, you're just paying an outsourced recruiter. But they come in and they really integrate into every single client. So we have emails from that client, right? So we look like your in-house corporate full-time recruiting team as we're engaging with every candidate for employer branding purposes, for continuity, for compliance, all sorts of reasons. And so we really are kind of that corporate in-house feel, just oddly external on demand. And so not often always needed. So that's one element of it. Sometimes we're surge support. So they do have the in-house team, but someone's out on maternity leave, or they want a massive contract. Right. They need 250 people in 3 months, and they've got 3 people in house. They need 3 more full-time recruiters. So here's 3 more full-time recruiters that are coming in. And again, kind of falling in line with what you guys already have in terms of process. So we have ones that have no tools and processes and things, and we're all of that for them, and ones that have everything built up, and we just come in as surge. And then the third version of support that we find ourselves doing is teaching, honestly, teaching and strategy, branded as strategy, but it really is teaching. And that's honestly for some of the big boys, the bigger giants. So one of those that we did in recent time was for BCG, Boston Consulting Group. We came in and they were looking to kind of break into certain agencies and hire in certain agencies for the first time ever. So they came to us. We said, hey, you don't have a clue about, whatever it might have been, HHS, for example. Here are all the under agencies of HHS. Here's the type of business development executive you want who comes from this type of experience, this type of background. Here's how you interview for that. And here are the answers to the interview questions you should be looking for. And we made an entire kind of package for them and really kind of taught them how they need to go and vet the market in a place they've not been before. So that was really fun and cool. But truly, we're not, because a lot of people do think of staffing agencies and staffing fields and like, hey, we're selling a candidate to a company. It's quite the opposite. We represent the company, and we're out there looking for the candidate.
Well, that's a clear distinction. And you go a lot further than a staffing company does in terms of all of the things that you've just described. That's awesome. And I love that. And I think that this is something that, not just small businesses can benefit from, but obviously you've got the experience there with the bigger corporation that really that experience there can lend itself to taper down to what a business that's growing really needs, is that advice side of it, the consultation side of it, that's so important. And so I'm so glad that we had the opportunity for you to break that down so that people aren't coming to you thinking that you've just got, butts and seats ready to rock and roll, that it really is getting internal with their team and understanding what they do and what they need and how you can utilize your expertise to field that out. So That's incredible. And I love that. And I love that we've been able to talk about a multiple array of points of interest and opportunities here today. And I know that with the way things are changing, that being able to hire effectively is going to be important throughout the year. So even though you and I see each other and connect often, I'd like to definitely have you back on soon so that we can get deeper into what's changed, and not just by the hour, but as the year progresses, right?
Absolutely. I would love that. And I hope that when we come back together, it's a very different conversation. And it was all the weird creative things we did and how we leaned in and all the results of that. That would be an awesome conversation to have.
I have no doubt. And I, as a friend to a friend, I'm super proud of you. And I'm really, really, really grateful that you've been willing to come back again. And I hope that not only can we do this again, but that you'll have me back on your podcast again too.
You were so much fun. You were the inaugural guest. It was the first one we ever did. Oh, it was great. Yes.
I'm number one.
Yes.
I love that. Not to make everything about me, but somehow all conversations tend to revert back to I. Well, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you very soon. Yes. And thank you all for joining us. As always, we pride ourselves on sharing the most insightful and exciting people and information to help you better navigate your GovCon journey. If you like what you heard today, you can see all of our past podcasts, which are archived on our YouTube channel by the same name. Stay tuned for all of our future guests in the coming month as we help you grow to great heights in the year ahead. I'm Teresa Moon, and this is Spilling the Tea on GovCon. Have a great day, my friends.